Hello everyone, this is Brian Ka with another video. So it's been a while. I think it's been about perhaps more than 6 months since I recorded a video. And the reason why I took a little bit of break from recording is because I was quite busy with law studies as well as building my own businesses and so forth. So this semester, I am in my third year, first trimester. I am taking wills and trusts and remedies. Now, is it harder than property? I don't think so. There were some things that I had to memorize and kind of, learn from scratch, but it was doable. I did pretty well on my wills and trust midterm, and remedies is something that was a little bit familiar because as a first year and your second year, you're always talking about remedies at the end of essays, meaning if you're doing torts, you're going to talk about compensatory damages, you're going to talk about consequential damages, punitive damages, and then if you're doing contracts, obviously you're going to talk about expectation damages, learn how to calculate incidentals. Also, you may have already learned how to do a specific performance. Only thing that were new were things like TRO, temporary restraining order, and unjust enrichment. Obviously, we've done that plenty of times in contracts. So remedies, to me, it's not too bad, but we have a professor who's kind of mean, and he didn't really give me a good score. So I don't think that's a very reflective of my writing skills, because for the last 2 trimesters, I was on the dean's list, and I've been getting A's. I think I got like 1B in property 2 with this same professor. So, I mean, he's good. I've had him when I was attending this school 10 years ago, and I have him again. He's, I think he's over 50 now, and he's tough. He's tough, but that's good because he kind of, pissed me off, I am studying twice as hard, and what matters in the end is not the grade, in his class. It's whether or not I pass the bar exam. So looking ahead, I have, about 2 trimesters left in a full year, so I'll be finished in taking the bar exam in about 1 year and maybe 7-8 months, which is not too bad. Another thing is, if you're thinking about going to a non-ABA school like myself, you'll know that even though some schools may represent themselves as, such that you can, take the bar exam, some schools or some states will allow you to take the bar exam after graduating from non-ABA. Some states they'll never let you take the bar exam, and some states may allow you to take the bar exam after 3 or 5 years in good standing. So I've been kind of looking into this, and I found that I haven't done a thorough search on this yet, but if you're going to a non-ABA, the only state, as far as I know at this moment, that'll allow you to take the bar exam after passing the California bar exam is Wisconsin. And, have I ever thought of, taking the bar in Wisconsin? No, I never did. But there are some advantages to passing and being licensed in Wisconsin as a non-ABA student. And one of them is that you'll be able to practice in about 8 or 9 or 10 states. Not exactly sure because I don't remember the list, but because of reciprocity, which California doesn't have with other states, but Wisconsin does. This means that after 3 or 5 years in good standing, after you pass the Wisconsin bar, you can, I guess, do reciprocity in Washington, D.C. I think there are like 7 or 8 other states that allow you to basically, sign in with their state bar and become licensed or take the bar exam. So I've decided to first take the California bar exam, and I'm gonna pass. And as soon as I get that passing grade, I'm gonna take the Wisconsin bar. And I don't know if I'll set up a practice there because realistically speaking, I am gonna have to, work as a public defender somewhere to get trial experience because I don't know if you know, these public defenders are, they're sabotaged with like caseloads that you can't really handle. And that's just the way the system is set up. So I think I'm gonna need that, if I can work at I don't think I'm gonna get into prosecution, but as a public defender, if I can defend like, I don't know, 50 cases a year or more to the point where I can't handle, but that's exactly what I want because I want trial experience. I'm not doing this to get into corporate law. I'm not doing this to get into government, even though public defense is a governmental job. I don't plan on doing that for the rest of my career. So what I'm gonna do is do that for maybe a year or two, learn the ins and outs of how to argue in court, all the federal procedure stuff, because what you learn in class and what you do in real life is way different. So I'm planning to do that, and while doing that for about 3 to 5 years, let the time pass, and then make myself available for a national law practice, which many people think is not possible unless you go to an AVA. But if you do pass California bar, again, the state of Wisconsin, they let you take the bar exam in that state, and UBE people say are somewhat easier than California bar exam, where they test you on like 20, 30 issues per essay, and we get a performance test. I think Wisconsin does 200 MBEs too, but MBEs are something where you just have to do a lot of it, like 5,000-6,000 of it, know the black letter law, and it becomes a pattern where you're going to start recognizing patterns and the more you practice, the easier it gets. So that's where I am. Another thing that that's quite interesting is that someone reached out from watching my videos, and I guess they found my email through one of the comments I left because somebody asked me, some questions, and I answered. I gave them my email address, and interestingly, the person, I guess, really needed some kind of guidance. So he reached out, and I did my best to, share my thoughts, what I did to pass first year, my story about taking a 10-year break, the outlines that I used. So it's good to know that my videos are not hidden. The algorithm, I guess, is, showing it to some people who really need it, and I'm so glad. And if you're one of those that need to, know more about this path, or you have questions about attending a non-traditional school, and you're planning on becoming an attorney, feel free to reach out anytime. I'll try my best to answer your questions. And now I think he's a first year. I think now he probably finished his orientation, and now I believe he's starting school at my school as a first year. And good luck to him. I wish him the best. I did not tell him this was going to be easy because, as you know, the pass rate for the baby bar is like a lot lower than the regular bar. It's like lower than 30%, 27, 26. The fact that they got rid of the essays doesn't make it easy. They probably did it because there was a strong correlation between passing essay scores and passing multiple choice scores. So they probably did it because they have so much data showing that there's a strong correlation there. So it doesn't mean that this is going to be an easy cakewalk. It's not. And I was honest, there are more people that are flunking out. Attrition rate, there's a higher attrition rate than people that end up moving on to second or third year. And I didn't hide from the fact that happens more for these non-traditional schools. And if you're still ready to tackle and try, then by all means do it. But expect that it's not going to be a easy cakewalk. You're going to have to memorize everything, understand everything at first, and then memorize so that you can pass the baby bar, which is not an easy test because you're being tested when you're not truly ready, and you get 1 year of basic law school case law, which has nothing to do with how you do on these multiple choice questions. So I was being very honest. I told them it's not going to be easy, but if you're able to, or if you're going to study and follow the methodology, you're going to do fine. So this is not something that is impossible, but the stats show you that it's like about 3 out of 10 students, or sometimes less, that end up moving on to second or third year. So I'm glad that this student is, I've inspired this student to, take this path and, try to become an attorney, and I'm so glad. There are several messages or comments saying that they wanted to me to do, I think, questions 75 to 100 on the multiple choice of the past baby bar questions. And I'm sorry that I wasn't able to make videos in the past 6 months. I've had my hands full, been quite busy, law studies and, business building, but, I'll try to get to it when I can. I don't want to guarantee or, tell you for a fact, I'm going to do this on this date, because right now that's the last thing on my mind. You're important, and, helping you pass this exam is very important, but I got to get myself sorted out first and make sure that I'm ready for the bar exam next year before I can help anybody out. So I hope you can understand. So I want to end this video with a realization that I've had on taking MBEs. So when I first began studying for these MBE questions, some people or some booklets said you have to always read the call of the question first and then read the fact pattern. And I didn't really think about that. I didn't really adopt that methodology. I always started reading the facts first and then read the call of the question. But in my past trimester, it was property 1 and property 2, which is a MBE subject. And I was doing a lot of MBEs on property every day, and my score wasn't improving. So I sat down and I started thinking, okay, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, I did pass the baby bar multiple choice questions because I studied for it for like a year. I didn't get a perfect score, but it was good enough to pass, meaning that, there was something that I was doing that wasn't triggering everything for me to, improve my score. So going back to the whole reading the call of the question first, I started adopting that methodology, and I started to tackle these property law MBE questions by reading the call of the question first, and then doing, reading the fact pattern. And I realized that doing that, I think I've improved property law MBE score by at least 15%, and that's a lot. We're talking about, if you're averaging like 65, 15% is like 80%. And I think I was at like 85%, 86, because I was doing the 200 set questions. I did it like twice. I did it once, 1 to 200. I did it again. I might have done it one more time because that's what I do. But, I adopted this, methodology of reading the call of the question first and then reading the fact pattern, and that improved my score drastically. And I thought about why this is, and the answer is simple. It's because, let's say you're reading a book, right? And it's a 150-page book. Now, assume that you didn't read the title of the book, but you started reading from chapter 3, let's say page 65, and you started reading, 3 paragraphs, and let's say you're being questioned on it. Well, because you have no context, you don't know what you're reading. You don't know where you need to focus your attention on. If you're given this type of question like 20, 30 in a row, your head's going to blow up. So if you get a little bit of context, meaning like, look for this, or this is what happened, or look for what happened to this name, like Anna, Ben, or Carol. I think what happens to your brain is once you, set up a context of what you're looking for, and then you start reading the fact pattern, then, you already know what you're looking for. So your brain, I guess, kind of works in a different way. Now, am I going to take my bar exam MBEs using that methodology? Absolutely, because as I've said, I improved my score by 15%. And if you've noticed my previous videos teaching MBE questions, I always read the fact pattern first. But from now on, because reading the call of the question was so effective for me, and I'm sure it will be effective for you, I am going to do all my MBE questions by reading the call of the question first, and then doing the fact pattern. Same thing with essays, because this became a habit of mine now. Whenever I try to tackle wills and trust essays or remedies essays, I'm looking at the call of the question first, trying to find out, okay, what does the bar graders want, because for remedies, it's very narrow. They're not looking or asking you to prove whether there was a contract breach. They're asking you to assume that there was a breach. And then, they want you to talk about, whether there should be, expectation damages, whether there should be reliance, was there unjust enrichment, things like that. So, I would strongly suggest, if you're, doing these MBE questions on Adaptive Bar or BarMax, which is what I've used to pass the baby bar exam, always read the call of the question first before reading the fact pattern, so that your brain doesn't get tired. And after doing about 50 of these, you're gonna kind of feel dizzy, because there's so much information just thrown at you, every second. You are going to feel that way. So in order to, assuage that type of brain overload, what you want to do is separate them by reading the call of the question, then reading the fact pattern from the beginning to the end, trying to find out or find what the bar graders are looking for before reading the facts. So I hope that insight will help you increase your score by a lot. For me, again, it was 15%, maybe more, once I've adopted this methodology. So I strongly suggest that you do that. And again, as I've previously mentioned, if you have any questions, about non-traditional law school, what I found out about passing the bar in Wisconsin, and then being eligible to practice in like more states than just having a California bar exam. If you want to discuss that, feel free to reach out, leave a comment. If you find some of these comments, you may find my email. If you find that, go ahead and email me, and I'll try my best to help you out. And with that, thanks for watching another video, and I'll try to upload another video soon. Thanks for watching.